What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Tribulation, ROSA AETERNUM. This came out on November 1st on Century Media Records, and this is the band's 6th studio full-length overall. Of course, I reviewed their last album that came out in 2021, where Gloom Becomes Sound, I think it was what it was called. But that made my year-end list, and I thought it was a damn good offering. So, yeah, I'm back at it to talk about Tribulation again. Of course, Swedish band, started out as death metal. Now they've become gothic metal, and a damn good one at that. So I was curious to hear what Tribulation had up their sleeve this time around. Well, this is a very different album from Tribulation. Even in their gothic metal era, this is very, very different. So we kick things off with the Unrelenting Choir, which was almost kind of an intro track, but not quite. You know, it starts off with winds and the bass guitars kind of creeping up, and there's some like spooky synths and clean guitar melodies. But the big change coming in on this album are the vocals. I forget the frontman's name because I'm an idiot, but there's clean vocals almost on every single song on this album, so you can definitely tell vocals are changing in Tribulation's sound, and they're more like low, gothic, clean vocals, almost like, I would say, Dan Swano whenever he's doing those kind of vocals, either in Edge of Sanity or Nightingale, or maybe even, I can't remember the frontman of Sisters of Mercy, but essentially like that kind of low, gothic, clean vocal. And then his vocals get bombastic, and then there's a heavy riff at the end. And it was under 2 minutes, or not under 2 minutes, under 3 minutes, and it was a really cool way to get things going and go straight into Tainted Skies. And again, you get those low gothic clean vocals, but the raspy borderline black metal vocals do show up here, and this is definitely a more up-tempo song. There's some cool harmonies and sweet leads. Like, this lead work across the board is really catchy. But the thing that drew me in with this song, the main riff reminds me of I Ran So Far Away by a Flock of Seagulls. Like, listen to the song, listen to the riff, tell me I'm wrong, because it's so inspired by that song. It's just like this song feels like a heavier gothic version of A Flock of Seagulls, which I did not expect to hear that on this, but hey, it was cool, and I thought it was a fun track. Saturn Coming Down starts off with more eerie atonal melodies, and then it gets more into like a more up-tempo rocker again. Like, that's kind of a feeling on this album. Like, it's less heavy, more rockin'. Like, there's a little more of a rock vibe to this album, despite, you know, unclean vocals and some heavier riffs from time to time. But this was just a fun up-tempo rocker. It builds nicely, and I like how they do the blackened vocals on the verses and the cleans on the chorus, and it's kind of sultry. Didn't think I would say that either. Hungry Waters, this one kind of brings in some Deep Purple vibes, like with the Hammond organ at the beginning, and even in some of the grooves and the swings, kind of remind me a little bit of something Deep Purple would have done in the early 70s. Of course, clean melodies, clean vocals once again, and then I'll just say it's clean vocals on the entire album except for a couple tracks. But there's also some cool vocal harmonies that show up here, and probably the biggest chorus on the entire album shows up on this track. But maybe my favorite lead section across the entire album, because you get like cool lead trade-offs and harmony. Even a nice little piano part. Drink the Love of God. This one is where it kind of gets a little bit more punky, and this is definitely confirming another thing I picked up on this album. Lots of nods, I would say, to a modern band like Unto Others. Like, a lot of these songs on this album, I'm thinking, did I somehow like switch over to the last Unto Others album, which, by the way, is still good? But I guess Tribulation might have picked up on a little bit of what Unto Others was doing and was like, you know what? let's try and delve a little bit into that without going too far and see where it takes us. And then you get into Murder in Red, starts off with chants and synths. Granted, 80s electronic drums, but thankfully it does get heavier and the natural drums do show up. But I do love the leads here, and there's also some like female wailing vocals going on here as well. Time in the Vivid Ore. This one, arguably the heaviest song on the entire album. Like the riffs are a little more raunchy, a little crunchier, but there's also still some really cool harmonies. And back to the raspy blackened vocals. Musically, though, I would argue this is very similar to Ghost. Like, very similar to Ghost. And awesome shred as well. Now, maybe my favorite on the album, Reaping Song. This one goes for a little more of a somber feel, and it kind of reminds me of something Opeth would have done. Like, there's the piano and the melodies, kind of make me think of something like from Ghost Reveries or something like that. The cleans are a lot more soothing this time around. There's some like nice little like triplet patterns on here, synth leads and guitar leads. Just overall fun track. And then the closer, which was the longest track of the album, at like 6 minutes 11 seconds, Poison Rages. Bells, it's again more of an up-tempo 80s rocker with more of those like Unto Other vibes, and it's almost atonal at times. So, yeah, definite changeover from the last album in terms of less heaviness and more towards hooks, and also the vocals, like more clean vocals, less of the blackened vocals that you heard them do on like their past few albums they've done. But I will say this album might come off as jarring for some people that are getting used to, still probably getting used to Tribulation's more gothic sound after their original death metal sound. But for the most part, I enjoyed this, even though this is kind of a giant shift in Tribulation sound. Maybe they're going a little more, I don't want to say commercial, but maybe a little bit more towards accessibility, I would say, because of the more melodies, less heavy riffs, less blackened vocals, and more towards like gothic rock and even some classic rock on here on top of their heavier sound. But I will say this album might be too much of a transition. Maybe the next album it will feel more comfortable. But for now, I will give this 3.5 out of 5. I still thought this was pretty good, even though, yeah, this is kind of a seismic shift in what Tribulation's doing now. But it's still a fun, enjoyable album nonetheless. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Keep your horns high. Thank you for watching, and keep your dreams wet.
Thank you for your patronage.